Good. Okay, Rob.
Okay.
Okay, Robert, you're all good.
Okay, good. Well, good morning. Still morning. Good morning, everybody. My name is Robert Brand, and I was mentioning to Ruben that I've been visiting your office in Alhambra and sometimes Arcadia and sometimes the office you had out in the City of Industry area for about 30 years and sometimes several times a year. So I've, very familiar with your company, a wonderful company, it's a great niche of the market and so forth. And if you've heard me before, I don't want you to hear the same thing over and over again, but it's been a while since I was there with all the changes and so forth, maybe a year and a half or so. So I don't think I'll be repeating anything that will bore anybody. Now, something unique about how I do this, I do not charge your company. I do not sell anything to any of you. I am very graciously sponsored by service providers, and they all have their people here, and they'll do a hello and how are you kind of thing and a little bit about their company in just about 4 or 5 minutes. So big percentage here in California, when it comes to real estate, is by far the most litigious state. There's no state that's anywhere near the problems that we have. And when I first started, a few decades ago, it was like 40% of lawsuits against residential agents were about property condition issues. Now it's about 9 out of 10, and even more than that in some more affluent areas here and there around California. So this is the biggest source of this topic is the biggest source of litigation by far against residential agents in California. So it's very important. I had mentioned to Ruben, I will send him some seminar notes that I've updated just a couple of months ago. So you'll be getting those, so you don't have to take notes if you don't want to. And then my only disclaimer will be, even though I talk about this, I'm pretty sure more than anybody in California, and for a long time, some companies have unique disclosure policies that are different than the norm. So I will give you my opinion, but make sure you always go with company policy, not with me, but I think it'll be the same. So just a couple of things before we say hi to our sponsors. Assuming everybody here uses the AVID form, it's not a statutory form, so it's not required by law, but it is required by most companies by far. It says that we do a visual inspection. That's the marching orders on the TDS. So a question that we might ask is, are you only when you're doing your AVID through the house, are you only going to be disclosing things that you can actually see visually? And the answer to that question is no, because even though it does say visual inspection, and that's been what it's said for a long, long time, it really has changed in its meaning in the court system to mean any sensory perception. So you don't have to be able to see something that may concern you in order to disclose it. If you notice it in any way at all, by sight or not, you should disclose it. So just 2 quick examples. If let's say I'm doing the AVID, I've got the buyers and I'm upstairs and 2-story home. And I notice as I go from room to room that the upstairs hallway floor seems to be very slightly uneven. Several times I don't notice it at all, but several times I have. So I'm done upstairs. Before I finish and go down, I look at the floor and visually it looks fine. It looks like it's flat. It looks like a good floor. But I have noticed something a little bit off. And who knows if I'm right or not, but that would merit a disclosure, even though it's not visual. Something lightweight like upstairs hallway floor appears to have some unevenness. When the buyers move in, if they don't notice anything about the floor, no harm, no foul. But when they move in, they say there's something wrong with this floor, you have provided a disclosure for your protection, for the client's knowledge, for your protection, for your company's protection. Let me back up. Strong odor, you're in the family room downstairs, very heavy, musty smell there. And you're thinking that even when the house is vacated and gets cleaned up, this is such a strong smell in here that it's probably going to linger on. It'd bother me if I was moving in, it's probably going to bother the buyers. Now that's not visual, you don't see it, it's a sensory perception, sense of smell. So you would want to make a disclosure, but on the musty aspect, you got to be really careful. Words that we do not want to use are words that are anything like the word mold, and including, of course, the word mold. So musty, mildew, mold are all very litigious words. We never need to use them at all because we're not in a position to diagnose if that's what we're really picking up through the sense of smell. Maybe something else, don't know. So you could say, you're not going to say this part of the house really stinks, but you got to come up with something better. So obvious odor noted in the family room area, something like that. And I've got in the notes, I'll have other words, parent odor noted or something. So you're calling attention to it, which you need to do, whichever side you're on, ultimately for the buyer's benefit. You're alerting them, but you're not setting yourself up and your company for a fall by using words that are just way too litigious, like the word mold. We'd never want to say that word out loud and never want to write it down. So any sensory perception doesn't make any difference which one. So as you go room to room and you're looking around, you know, doing your AVID thing, if you're going to make a comment on a room, it has to be either a defect or a red flag, no other topics. So let's just define them real quick. A defect is like a broken window. If the kitchen window was broken, that's your whole disclosure: cracked window, broken window. It's not a big crack, small crack in the upper right corner. It's not from the baseball or the rock. You just keep the details out. There's just a crack. It's a broken window. And that's all you need to say. That's all the buyers really need to know. The other category would be red flag. That's like a stain in the ceiling. Now, a lot of people would say that's kind of, especially if it was bigger, that's a large water stain. But, you know, stains can occur from a lot of things other than water. It could be white wine stored in the attic. It could be rodents. It could be, who knows? And I don't know. And I actually don't care. My job is just to call attention to it. So just as a general rule, if I don't say this again, I probably will, but if I don't, adjectives are the friend of advertising. Flyers, whether they're hard copy flyers or in the cloud, you can say all kinds of things and never get into any difficulty. You know, magnificent view, majestic backyard, or whatever, and nobody seems to care about it. But in disclosure, in the TDS and the AVID, we have to be very, very careful about our wording. So I'll touch on that again. 2 quick challenges, and we'll hear from our sponsors so they can get on with their day. You're in the living room and you cannot find anything to say about it as part of the AVID. It looks like it's in perfect condition, but you don't want to write perfect down. So I don't have anything to say. You notice a ceiling fan. A lot of agents would say, oh, I'll just mention that, you know, ceiling fan noted. Well, obviously it's ceiling, but anyway, ceiling fan noted. Well, a ceiling fan is not a defect. It's not a red flag. It is inventory. And now, since I started listing inventory in the living room, I need to list it everywhere to be consistent. And now my AVID gets filled up. It has to go into addendums because I'm listing all the stuff they have in the house. And that's not what my limited visual inspection is for. One other challenge, and there's a couple of dozen of them, but just 2. Spider web, maybe not that small, but I have seen agents, because I looked at lots of AVIDs where they mentioned there's a spider web in the, you know, ceiling corner or something. It's too minor. It's too insignificant. It's like saying there's a scuff mark by the baseboard, you know, by the door, at the baseboard by the door, or the carpet's dirty. We often disclose these things when we can't find anything else to say. So we're just looking for something. Now, when you're in a room and you've looked around adequately, which doesn't take long, and you can't find anything to disclose, that's actually a happy problem, so to speak. Usually when there's litigation and we get served a month or 2 after closing, and we get the, you know, the process server comes, we go, oh, I remember this place. This was a disaster. But if it's not a disaster, it looks squeaky clean, there's much less chance of having a problem and getting sued, or even approaching getting sued. Now, there is an answer to what you should write down when you cannot find anything to say, and I'll get to that in just a moment. Well, I'll get to it now, and then I'll explain it after we hear from our sponsors. Nothing noted, I have found, is the best term statewide, unless you have a policy against it, basically saying this home does have a living room. Not all homes do, but this one does. I did do my limited visual inspection there, and I found nothing to disclose. The only complaint I have ever heard over this expression is when the home is in pristine, magnificent condition, and the entire AVID is nothing noted, nothing noted, nothing noted, nothing. And then an agent will ask me or say, my client's gonna say I never even showed up because I could have written that down in my office or my home office and never visited the property. There's a really easy solution to that I'll get to in just a moment. So defects and red flags, a few things on the visual inspection. Okay, brought to you by, like a commercial. Let's start with First American Home Warranty and Sandy, and take it away.
Good morning, Caldwell Banker, George Realty. I'm wondering how many of you watched The Bachelorette last night and saw my very handsome oldest son. If not, you can catch streaming on Hulu today, and then set your DVRs every Monday, 8 o'clock for the next 8 weeks or so. I'm not sure I'll be watching, but we'll see. Anyway, so back on track with what we're doing here today. Right now, we're in a transitioning market, right? The seller's crazy market is over, and we're transitioning, and a lot of people are writing out home warranty completely and thinking that, asking for it's a bad idea, or, they don't have funds for it. And it's not a matter if something is going to fail for a new homeowner, it's a matter of when. And keep that in mind. If you save your clients $500 by not having them pay for their own home warranty, or not asking the buyer to pay for the home warranty, and you've saved them $500, because that's a much cleaner offer, and their water heater breaks 3 months after escrow closes, and they are $2,000 out of pocket, what have you truly done? It is a very low cost for what is considerable coverage should a major system or appliance fail. And the surveys we take and the data that we keep, First American's a data company, 53% of homeowners will have a major system or appliance fail the first year they own a home. I'd like to have your clients be protected so that they have they have some comfort and some peace of mind knowing that every time they put it into their dream home, they're not going to have to go scrambling around to find out how they're going to get hot water. So if you ever have any questions, I'm here. There's never a bad time to buy a home warranty. The best time is when you're going through escrow. But if they just can't swing it through escrow, let me know. And there are monthly plans. We can make this work. Have a great day, everyone.
Great. Thank you. Very good. Looks like you're on your yacht right now. That's nice. Yeah, good, good. Okay. I would love to have the problems that your son is having right now, but that's not ever been my life, so forget it. But I did record it, so I'll watch it later. Mary Kay is here. Advanced Group Property Inspections, just a sterling reputation for them. And Mary Kay, just asking to keep it brief, but take it away.
Hello, everybody. I just noticed in the chat that I have many of my friends that I haven't seen for a long time. During COVID and even before, like maybe a year before, where I was concentrating a lot on a few other offices too. So I'm missing you very much. It's Mary Kay, Advanced Group Property Inspections, reminding you that we do 7-day service. I did leave my number in the chat, the office number and the cell number. You can always call me on my phone. On my cell phone. Don't worry about after hours. Let's say if you got an offer accepted on Friday at 5:30 and you don't have to wait for Monday, you can call me you can always call the office, leave a message, but I can schedule you. During COVID, I learned how to schedule inspections because we got short with employees. We all went through the same thing. So now I know how to schedule inspections too. So it'll be no problem for me to schedule you. And please remember that we do go to your walkthroughs when you do your inspections 5 days before. If you ask the seller to do any repairs, we can come to your walkthroughs. We're the only company that comes to your walkthroughs. Nobody else does. So just like Robert is here talking about how to stay out of court, anything about liability, I want to also remind you that that will take you away from at least a major part of the liability because we'll take that responsibility upon us. If there's, we come in and we say, yeah, everything is okay, now you sign your walkthrough, we took that liability on us. And so, but because we know what we're doing and we have been doing this for so long, we have no problem coming to your walkthrough and clearing the problems. And I don't want to take so much time. I just have to talk to Caesar and see if I can come and bring you lunch again for your meeting. So I love you guys all very much. I hope you're all doing great, and see you very soon. Mary Kay, Advanced Real Property Inspections. Love
Great.
you.
Thank you very much. And I think you get your number in the chat room too, if you haven't already.
Yes,
And
I
if
did.
you-
I already
Okay.
did.
And if you like Greek food, call Mary Kay. It's just absolutely amazing.
Yeah, they've
So
eaten many times, so I know they missed it.
yes, right. So Ed Adams is here, the disclosure report, and just a phenomenal provider of the NHD report. And go right ahead, Ed.
All right, hey, thanks, Bob, and good morning, everybody. And my name is Ed Adams. I own the Disclosure Report NHD. I've been in the real estate affiliated business for 30 odd years. In fact, I used to call on George Realty back in the early 90s with the warranty company that I worked for when Mr. Crosby was there. Super nice guy, Jim Green. So know your office well. And it's nice to see the offices that are terrific there. And obviously you do what you're supposed to do because you're still kicking it out there. And it's great to be part of this risk management team with Bob talking about disclosures, what you should, what you shouldn't do, with inspection, obviously inspecting the property prior, and home warranties as well, taking care of the problems after the close of escrow. It's a risk management team altogether that keeps you out of trouble. It's not just about making the commission, it's keeping the commission. So I'm proud to be part of that. My disclosure company, I started in 2008. We have modified it and updated it. We update our report every month to provide the most accurate natural hazard zone disclosure. We have included on all of our reports the AB 38, the fire hardening, the CAR addendum. I licensed that through CAR. It's not cheap, but we put it on all of our reports, whether the property does or does not fall in a very high fire area. It's good to disclose it on there. You have your standalone addendum when it does, have that included as well, but we put it on there for all of our reports on there based on what our risk management friend here, Bob, says, and some of the attorneys I deal with in the industry. So it's not a bad idea. So it's on all of our reports. The flyer you have there, it does say Crest on it. I know you used to be affiliated with Crest E&O Insurance. You're not anymore. But we do have an advantage if you do go back to Crest, and I can talk more about that at a different point. But I encourage you to use our report. It's very simple. It comes over. I talked to an agent the other day. They said as they were filling out the report and hit submit, within 3 minutes, it was over to them. And it's very easy to read. It's simple. It's concise. It's accurate. It's credible, responsible. And if there is any kind of, excuse me, issues in terms of any flood elevation and things like that, we can do specific addendums for you as well. So thank you for the opportunity to earn your business. Give us a chance. It's one of those things that you can order before you even go on the listing presentation. When you're talking to a seller, we don't charge unless escrow actually opens and then closes. If for whatever reason you say, nah, I don't like that report, then I'm not going to charge you, order another one. So it's not going to cost you anything to give us a chance. Try it. And I'd love to earn your business. Again, like Mary Kay was saying, you can call me on the weekends in the evenings. There typically isn't an NHD emergency, but I've had agents who say, I forgot to order it. We're closing. I need to get it. Can you get it out quick? And then we're on it, Johnny, on the spot. That's my cell phone number. You can get a hold of me at any time. So, thank you very much for being part of your team. I appreciate it. Call me, text me, email me. I'm available for you. And thank you very much. It's great to be with y'all.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ed. Okay, let's keep going here. And I'll get into my rapid fire mode. Let's cover the nothing noted dilemma, where a home is in seemingly perfect condition, but you never want to write down perfect, of course. But you have really done an adequate, still limited, but an adequate limited visual inspection, and there's just nothing you come up with. And so the concern is there's a bunch of nothing noteds, and it looks like the client may say, did you ever even show up or whatever? So here's a great technique. So here in Southern California, not every home, but the vast majority of homes have on the left what we might call stucco siding. It's better not to use the word stucco. If you're going to mention the siding, just call it exterior siding. And on the right, cement, concrete, all over the place, usually. Driveways, walkways, patio, poolside. It is, I think everybody will agree, impossible in Southern California to find these surfaces with no cracks. If you look at the left, the exterior siding, you can see some kind of small cracks there. Now, you never use the word small because it's an adjective. There's no need to use it, so just don't use it. But a lot of agents would refer to these as normal settling cracks. That's worth about 10 hours of you on the stand in court with geotechnical engineers asking how in the world you can determine it's from settling. That's a geotechnical engineer's domain. And there's no reason to write that down because it does nothing for us. It can get us in difficulty. So a wonderful disclosure word. It's my favorite word in a disclosure is the word some, and that will be in the notes. There are going to be some cracks at the exterior siding. And, you know, if the driveway looks just ideal, you can't even see any cracks, which doesn't happen very often. You can skip that and mention the walkway, the patio, or whatever. Some is a great word because if you say there are like in a bedroom or any room, there's 3 stains on the ceiling, maybe you missed one, or if it's on the wall, stains are on the wall, something was obscuring your vision, and you have a really picky buyer and they said, you said there were 3 stains on the wall, but there's actually 5. And so the word some covers everything, you know, there's some cracks there or stains. That's all you really need to say. So I'll have that in the notes. That's a great thing to write down. If you're looking for where do I write it, if you don't find any other place in the AVID, there's this great, by the arrow there, a great line that is rarely used, and it's like a catch-all, other observed or known conditions not specified above, if you can't find where else to put it. And you know, when you're in the house, if you can find something to say about, I don't know, the laundry room or the kitchen, go ahead, just to make a comment. But that takes care of it. You're not going to have a client say, you didn't even, maybe you didn't show up. Now, you know, that's a kind of an insult to say that, but it'll get it out of their mind. Here's just a really, and by the way, I have 30 some hours of materials. So I'll just rapid fire pick and choose because you're not going to want to be with me here for 5 hours. But so here's one on the standard of care, just an example of how we can look at something that another person in the transaction is looking at, but we word the disclosure differently. So like the window frame there at the bottom, if it's the termite guy, so to speak, he's going to probably disclose dry rot noted at windowsill, but we don't want to say that because dry rot is a wood destroying organism, and we're not qualified or licensed to disclose wood destroying organisms. So we can look at the same thing and we just use different wording. We can, you know, an example would be damage noted to windowsill. So here you have 2 professionals in the transaction, pest control, termite, and yourself, and you're talking about the same thing. You just don't want to repeat what somebody else says that got there before you because they may have a completely different standard of care. Damage covers everything. Dry rot is again, a wood destroying organism. So that's really simple. I sometimes get asked this, and that is, I'm representing the buyers. There is something near their home, and near is interpretive, but like there's a school across the street. It's right next to a freeway, and that the presence of the school or the church that has chimes ringing or a shopping center is going to impact their quality of life, whether it's good or bad or indifferent. So a couple of examples, like let's say the home that's kind of on the right there. I've got buyers that are from let's just say they're from out of the area. And they may like the fact that there's a school there, they've got kids or whatever, but the things that are going to be affecting them will be gridlock in the morning drop off and the afternoon pickup of the students, bells ringing, gym class, dances, band practice, and all that. Now, some people may love it. Some people may regret they ever moved there. We just have to make sure that we make a disclosure. And I will mention right now a really simple way to do it. And just to simply disclose, there is a school near the house. Don't say it's a block away. Don't say it's X number of feet or yards. There's a school near the house, meaning whatever happens to you when you have a school that close is going to happen to you, whether you like it or not. And some people don't care. They like being that close to it. We don't make a judgment on whether it's something that they like or not. It's just letting them know that it's there. I took this picture. Most of the pictures I show, I don't take, but I was in, I guess it's South Bay, LA, like LAX, Torrance, Hawthorne, whatever. If you're familiar with that area, there are a lot of oil wells. Now, sometimes somebody in a seminar will say, if I own that property in the forefront, I wouldn't have oil wells. I'd build houses. I'd make a lot more money. But that's not so. If it's oil rich in that area, and there's some areas are there in Torrance and Hawthorne and Redondo, Manhattan Beach, this is the way to go if you own the property. And so you have a buyer looking at the houses in the background, let's say the one on the right with kind of the bright red tile roof. And the buyers have been there twice and they're hanging over the back fence and they're from somewhere else, not from here. And they say, boy, I've never seen an oil derrick up close. And, they make some noise, not really a lot of noise, but they make some noise. Now you think, well, they've seen it. I don't have to disclose it, but we always have to disclose it because it's very easy for buyers to say, I never noticed it. And we can't really challenge them at all. Now, the best thing to do, and I'll mention this again, and it'll be in the notes, is to simply tell them what is there. Do not list out what may bother them about what's there, because you will never make the list long enough. So if you say there are oil derricks near the home, what that means is whatever happens to you when you live that close to an oil derrick is going to be part of your life, whether you like it or not, or you don't care. There is a school near the house, near the property. Everything that goes on at a school is going to be part of your life, and some buyers love it, some don't. We just have to let them know, even though it's really obvious. And one more, I think I was in, this obviously would be West LA, Interstate 10, kind of around La Cienega or somewhere. So look at the house on the right. I mean, you can't get closer to a freeway. There's a freeway on-ramp there to go 10 East. So that would be, what's going to bother somebody that close to a freeway? If you make a list, it's going to be noise, vibration, maybe the buyers have a problem with gasoline fumes, or maybe it's gasoline fumes don't bother them, it's diesel fumes, runaway blown out tires that are like a missile. There are so many things. So since you'll never be able to make a list long enough and catch on that list anything that may bother your particular buyer, the key to this is simply to let them know in your disclosure, this property is adjacent or near a freeway. What qualifies for near is completely your opinion. There is no number of feet or yards or miles. Like if it's an airport, it may be miles. It does not exist. You just have to, as a real estate professional, think, if I was not from this area and I was buying this home and I somehow didn't notice the freeway, whatever, or I never visited the property, what would I want to know? I'd want to know it's near a freeway, because if you make the list of noise, this, that, they'll go after you for something that's not on the list. So telling them that it's there is the way to go. So let me kind of, yes, no matter how obvious it is, disclose the obvious. So here's a couple of tips I'll flesh out in the notes. So when you're disclosing something near the property, and again, near is your call. I wish I could tell you how many feet or yards or whatever, but it doesn't, it just doesn't exist. So you have to just use a judgment call from your experience. So this will be in the notes. Disclose what is there. not the details of what may bother the buyers about what is there, because you don't know what might bother them. What may bother you may not bother them. So just disclose that it is there. A couple other things, like there's a freeway near the house. So whatever happens to you when you live that close to a freeway will be part of your life. Let me just interject something that just came to mind. I did a seminar for the Rim of the World Board of Realtors. That's, I think, not Big Bear, Arrowhead. So an agent in the audience said, I have a buyer coming from downtown Chicago. They live there all their life. They're retiring. They love the resort areas here, mountain resorts, and they are purchasing a home in the woods, just a little bit north of Lake Arrowhead. And there are trails, and they have a dog, a small dog, and they're looking forward to taking their dog on walks. But we have coyotes here, and they've never seen a coyote living in downtown Chicago. So I better warn them about coyotes. I said, well, are you going to warn them about black widow spiders or snakes or birds of prey, hawks in the day and owls at night that can come down and even pick up a small animal? How long is your list going to be? And the answer is the list will never stop. So you do not want to get specific. And while I normally don't talk about the animal kingdom, in the notes that Ruben will get to you, I have actually a disclosure about the animal kingdom. It covers every creature that's lived since Earth was in existence. So a school is close to the property. These are the disclosures that are good. Disclosing, just disclose what is there. Let them figure out what may bother them. Do not make a list of specifics. Okay. By the way, in the chat area, I have my email address. And if this is a free service I provide, I've been doing, been at this for 32 years. It doesn't cost anything. If you want to send me an In-N-Out burger coupon, fine. No, I'm kidding. Double. But anyway, so you can ask me any disclosure question anytime. You can call me. You can email me. Email's probably better. And then I'll respond. I would, in your case there, I'd copy in Ruben so he at least knows what I'm saying. And I do that every day. When I'm driving around, I take calls, and it's just been part of my life for a long time. So that's always available, and there's no catch to it. So anyway, rough draft disclosure to a final disclosure. Let me just back up here. If you have rough draft and you want to make it a final disclosure, here's a great way to do it. Very easy, kind of disarmingly easy. It does not cost anything, you don't download anything. It takes just a few seconds. So I'll use myself as an example. Let's say I have the buyers. I'm doing the AVID. The sellers are gone, but they're on their way home, and I kind of want to finish up and get out of there before they arrive. Just don't want to have any discussions with them that could cause a problem, not in a personal way, but just in terms of litigation. You never know. So I want to get done and get out. So I've done upstairs. I've done all the downstairs. My last stop is the kitchen. So I have the AVID, and you may have it, on your phone or something. I'll just go with like the old-fashioned paper way. I see a couple of stains here. I think, okay, what am I going to say? It kind of looks like mold to me, and it is in the kitchen, so there are water sources there. This could be a red flag indicating a disaster behind this wall, where they're going to have to take out that side of the house or something. And the people that do this look like they're astronauts going to the moon or something. It's just really a big deal and very expensive. So here's an easy way to make a disclosure, and it takes just moments. So set the AVID aside and just get out like your phone, laptop, scratch pad. I'll use a scratch pad and write down, not on the AVID, but whatever comes to mind. For me, it looks like there are 2 small black mold stains noted. So I jot that down, not on the AVID. I put it in my pocket. Later on in the day, I'm away from the home. I'm gone, and I'm in my home office or car office or whatever. I take that out and I just begin to cross out or remove every word I can, such that it still makes sense in the English language. I don't have to say "to" or "small," no colors, and there's no way I want to write down the word mold. All I have left over is stains noted. Ideal disclosure. I do not want to set myself up or my company for a fall by getting technical, saying too much, but I do want to let the buyers know, whichever side I'm on, ultimately the buyers are going to, be reading the AVID, that there are some stains here. What they may mean, I don't know, and it's not my responsibility to know. My obligation is to simply draw it to their attention. So that's a rough draft to a final disclosure. Okay, here's some good advice. I think it's very good advice. Make sure that, and I know market conditions have been unique for quite a while and they're changing here and there. Not, I speak statewide, so it's different places. But if you are representing the seller, you can kind of do your AVID anytime. You have access to the home. But if there's a deal now, there's a contract, and you want to get into the AVID, you're representing the buyers. It's very easy when the buyers, let's say, since Mary Kay was our sponsor here for home inspection, you call her up, her company up, and today is Tuesday. So maybe they can get out tomorrow, but let's say they can get out there Saturday, just to pick a day. You want to make sure you don't say, well, two birds, one stone. I'll do my AVID at the same time as the inspector is there, because my buyers are going to be there and we're, one big happy family all together at one time. There are a few things we can do that are more litigious than that. It's very important that we get to the property and finish our AVID before the home inspector shows up, preferably days before. If you have to do it the same day as the home inspection and the home inspector's coming at 3 p.m., make sure the only time you can get in there is at 9 o'clock in the morning. Make sure you have the entered house at 9 o'clock, exited property at 10 o'clock or something. Because here's why. Home inspectors have a very different standard of care than we do. They have a higher standard of care, more difficult, more litigious. They actually get sued more, believe it or not, in California than home inspection, than real estate agents do. And by the way, just while I have it on my mind and thinking about home inspectors, if you are in the habit of recommending to your client, usually in Southern California, it's the buyer. Up in Northern California, they do a little different, but down here, I recommend that you obtain the services of a licensed home inspector is not something you want to write down, because the state of California does not license home inspectors. I think 32 states do, but I thought we would be the first kid on the block, but didn't happen that way. So there's no licensing in the state of California for home inspectors. So better to word that, since they're not going to be able to find a licensed home inspector, is to say I recommend a qualified home inspector, a professional home inspector. But anyway, they have a higher standard of care. They get sued more often than we do. They're under sinks, and a lot of companies don't have their agents do that. They're up in the attic, and we certainly don't do that. And we don't want to be there kind of either following them around or crossing paths where they see something that we normally wouldn't have seen within our standard of care. So let's say I can get out there tomorrow or the next day. So that's great. I'm there by myself, or maybe the seller's home. But anyway, I'm in the master bedroom. I don't see in this picture anything to disclose. I'm not going to move the bed out of the way. If it was a tile floor and there were throw rugs, I'm not going to move them. And there's no way I am going to move that flower painting or look behind it. The home inspector very likely will, but I don't want to, and I don't have to. I don't want the liability that may come when I take the painting off the wall and behind it is something like this. The home inspector will see that if he removes the painting, but I don't. As a real estate licensee, I don't remove anything. I don't move anything out of the way. So I don't have any liability. But if I happen to be there when the home inspector's doing the inspection, even if I'm not following him around, let me tell you, if there's litigation and it's a lot of money involved, they'll come up with somebody that's going to come into court, a hired gun expert witness that'll say, I saw the agent walk by when the home inspector took off the painting or whatever, even though it's not true. But if the date on your AVID is an earlier date than the date of the home inspection, there's no question that you were not watching anything. It's good to be there with your buyers on the day of the time of the inspection. You want to kind of sit it out, let the buyers do whatever they want to, but you've already got your AVID done. So you're not responsible You stayed in your standard of care. You are not responsible for things that the home inspector may find that are part of his standard of care. So to wrap this part of it up, always complete the AVID prior to the home inspection, if at all possible. Usually it is, takes some effort sometimes. In a slower market, which maybe we're getting into, who knows, not too slow right now. And repairs are being negotiated. You know, the sellers are willing to do repairs because it's hard to find a buyer, which hasn't been the case lately. Never delay doing your AVID because you're waiting for the repairs to be done because conditions might change. That means that you are in the driver's seat. There's general contractors at the property doing things, and you're the one that's making a decision when the right time is to do that visual inspection, and you're not the person to make that decision. So just do it as soon as you can. And if there are really substantial changes, you can address those with an addendum later, but just get the AVID done as soon as possible. And again, great, let me tell you, buyers do all the suing in this category of litigation. #1 source of lawsuits against us in California. Buyers that actually attend a home inspection rarely sue. So if there's any way you can get them there, you sit it out and all that and get some work done. But it's really good if you can get them there. It's a great technique for reducing litigation. So about 10 or 15 minutes here. So let me just check the chat room real quick to see if there's okay. Advertising issues. I don't talk about this too much because I focus on disclosure, but let me just talk about it a little bit. When you're putting a flyer together, there's not much litigation there, but so I'll just spend a few minutes on it. We want to make sure that when we're doing bullet points on a flyer, whether it's a virtual or a real piece of paper, whatever, like home is totally remodeled. Having been at this a long time, I can tell you there is no home in the state of California, maybe other states, not as litigious, that's totally remodeled. Cannot be done. They will find something that wasn't totally remodeled. So all we have to do is just use better language. It's beautifully remodeled. It's a great word, very positive word. And it has the same effect or a better effect upon anybody reading it. Nobody's going to sue over how beautiful is it. So we have a thumbs down on the superlatives like totally, completely, fully remodeled, updates throughout the house. Doesn't exist in the courtroom. It does these things. You cannot have a completely remodeled anything. They will find something that wasn't done. So all you got to do is go with the beautiful, wonderful, bright, amazing, incredible, delightful, whatever. And it has a great effect in advertising, but it doesn't set you up for a fall and your company up for a fall because they come after you for, hey, it's really not totally or completely anything. And also another word I want to mention is when I was doing live seminars for like 3 decades all over, kind of equally dispersed around California, I would ask a group, crowd of agents like, the dishwasher is 6 months old. Is that a new dishwasher? Would that be a bullet point like you might have in a flyer? And it was like a 50-50. Yeah, 6 months? No, not new. The others 50. Yes, it's only 6 months. It is new. What about a brand new? That made it even more confusing. Brand new just seems to be like newer than just new. So what do they really mean? I don't think anybody really knows. A word that I have found to be ideal is the word newer, dishwasher in the kitchen, as part of a flyer kind of a thing that, to promote the property. When I asked the same group of agents, a 6-month-old dishwasher, is it a newer dishwasher? 99% of the audience raises their hand. When almost everybody agrees on a word, it's a better word to use. Nobody's quite sure what newer means, but that's okay. They don't disagree with it. They don't argue with it. Okay, let's say, moving away from advertising, let's say you're representing the sellers and the buyer's agent says, my buyers are concerned about some kind of roof repair. Can you find out from your seller client what happened? So you talk to your seller, you communicate to the buyer's agent through email probably. Well, I talked to my sellers. They mentioned that the roof leak was repaired a year ago. The sellers are going to provide the contractor's receipt. These are all my words. There's no quotation marks. I'm responsible for everything in here. I have no idea if any repair was done a year ago. I wasn't around then, or didn't know them or whatever. And so when I talk to my seller, the magic formula here that just solves it all are quotation marks, like from high school English class. I talk to my seller states, and what you see in yellow is not from me. It's quote and unquote at the end. This is their information. I don't know anything about it because I wasn't there. It sounds reliable to me, so I'm passing it on. I've spoken with my seller and they say, quote, the roof leak was repaired, whatever, see contractors, unquote. They bear the responsibility of the contents there, not me when I just kind of go on and on. I talk to them and they said this and they said that and all that. That's a kind of a sloppy way of doing it. Quotation marks really takes care of this very well. Okay, a couple more. The pack rat room. This is when you're doing your visual inspection and you go into a room or try to get into a room. It's like, wow, what a mess. What a mess. And what do we do with that? So let's say this is one of the rooms. A lot of people in our business, if the home is, not in squeaky clean shape, they got a lot of this sort of thing. They kind of go in the room, think maybe it's a bedroom. They go, well, there's a lot of stuff in here, but I can kind of see around, and they just, there's no comment in the room or whatever. They don't disclaim it. But if it's something even approaching this, it's not fair to me as the agent that all of this stuff is going to go, the carpet's going to go, and maybe the room actually looks like this. I don't want to be responsible for what looks like a big mold infestation. I shouldn't be responsible for it because when I was there, it looked like this. There's just not enough access to a decent visual limited inspection. Or like a kitchen, it's like you really can't see the countertop. So it's better to lean on the side of disclaiming a room. Then I think I can probably, make some comments here, because when it's disclaimed, legitimately disclaimed, you can always be called back, and you usually aren't, which is kind of good, but you can be. So in the notes, these words are not divinely inspired. You may have a better expression, but the one I like is extensive personal belongings preventative visual inspection. Now, in the notes I have, when you have a house that is just like totally trashed out, you may want to disclaim the entire house. It's like just not fair to you that you can't even get in the front door. I mean, it's just a mess. You got to like protect yourself and your company. So quick story, friend of mine, an agent in Orange County, I think Irvine, Newport area, represented the buyers. And this is a family room on the right. It's also the family room on the left. So after they closed escrow, Mr. Buyer called up my friend, his agent, and said, we get the feeling that the floor in the family room seems to be just a little bit tilted, not a lot. Some people notice it, some people don't. The agent said, I'm in my car 5 minutes away, let me stop in. So he let me know. He said, Bob, I walked in there and I could tell, I didn't say anything. I could tell there's just something off on this floor. So Mr. Seller had a marble. I'm not sure where you get marbles these days, but he had a marble. He set it down on the floor and just let go, and it rolled right into the corner. So the buyer's agent did the right thing. I did my AVID inspection some time ago. I needed to go to my office, look at my file. And he told me, didn't tell the client, I was wondering how in the world I missed this. Well, the reason he didn't remember that when he was there some time ago, it looked like it did on the left, is, well, he's a real estate agent. He looks at lots and lots and lots of properties, and you just can't retain it all. But fortunately, on the AVID, now I have it really bold here to make it easy to read. He had a great disclaimer for the family room, extensive personal belongings preventative visual inspection. There was a lawsuit. He was never named it. The agent was never named in the lawsuit. It was just like too much of an ironclad dismissal of the agent's responsibility. Said it really clearly, too many personal belongings. Again, never called back, saved the day for him. He didn't have to settle out. I mean, it costs like 60 grand to bulldoze that part of the house and get rid of the slab. And it was very expensive. I think more like 80 grand. And he and his company were never involved. So that works well. Now, on that topic of clutter, don't forget about the home's exterior. We all know about if the living room or bedroom is too crowded, but you know, in Southern California, a lot of residents have a lot of vegetation on the side of their house, or they just have a boat and they got just a bunch of stuff, you know, just piled up there. And you really can't see the side of the house. So you want to use the same basic technique. Or maybe we can't see now the cracks that you see in the exterior siding. Looks pretty bad. It may not be really bad, but it's something that we would disclose, but we can't see it because there's too many things in the way. We want to make sure that we use the same disclaimer, like, and I have this in the notes, extensive vegetation debris prevented a visual inspection of portions of the house exterior. That can just save the day. And somebody asked a question, was the quote of the seller okay? Yeah, the seller in that example where I was representing the sellers, the listing, and I talked with them and I verbatim quoted them. That's their words. Between the open quotes and the closed quotes, it's not me, it's not my responsibility, it's my client. And that's where I want it to be, because I wasn't around when the roof was inspected. And by the way, if this is kind of a funny picture, if it's this bad, I'd say forget it. I do have a disclosure when it is this bad. Now that's pretty rare, but where you basically obviously have to disclaim the whole house, probably the car too. I'm not sure if that's ever going to get out of there. Okay, let me I'm just going to look at, because limited time. Let's see. Let me do this, and I'll give you my opinion. Make sure it's okay there at Coldwell Banker, George, with Ruben and so forth. But I'll tell you my opinion. I'll make this the last thing I talk about here. Wear and tear items, the minor stuff that nobody cares about. Should you disclose them? And there's a little bit of difference in companies, but not too much. My opinion is no, because every home has wear and tear items. They're not meaningful disclosures. They do not affect the value or desirability of the property. They're just filler because we can't find anything else. So I already kind of covered that. So things like, I'm in a room, what do I say? I got nothing here. Well, there's a scuff mark at the baseboard, the carpet's dirty. Once I start doing that, I have to do it for every room in the house. I got to mention all the dirty carpet, all the wallpaper that's kind of peeling off, every scuff mark. And these are things that, again, do not affect the value or desirability of the property. And I just don't think they should be disclosed. So usually there isn't any. Now make sure you go with office policy, because once you start disclosing them, wear and tear stuff, you got to disclose all of them, and you'll never finish, because there's just every house that's a few years old has got a lot of this stuff. So what happens is there's way too much information in the AVID. Buyers that are conscientious and want to know, what did you find in your limited visual inspection? It's almost like they can't see it because there's just so much about the dirty carpet or the wallpaper problem. So they're not really significant things. Now I'm going to date myself with this, but there used to be a game, I don't even know if it's out anymore. It's called Where's Waldo? Now, Waldo is a guy that has a red and white striped sweater or shirt. Kind of hard to find. If I do this, you can find him very easily. I saw him the other day. I had no idea he was a real person, but there he is in the crosswalk. There you go. Anyway, you see him there. Easy to see, but not so much now. And I like Waldo to kind of represent something that's just, disclosure worthy, but we got too much. The beachgoers are all the nicks and scratches and faded carpet or dirty carpet, and it just crowds out the meaningful disclosures. So let me just get to the end here. By the way, I just did some some work on this property here. That's the Brady Bunch home. If you go back in time, it's in the San Fernando Valley. And let me show you this. I won't get into it, but this is, I talk about stigmatized properties. That if you ever saw The Father of the Bride, Steve, I think they did 2 movies. It's a real house just in Pasadena. In the movie, it's supposed to be in San Marino, but it's actually in Pasadena. And I'll tell you, heaven help anybody that owns this house, because every time I go by, it's on El Molino, right? So I think just south of Colorado. There's always a crowd of, every time I'm in that area, I swing by to see what's going on. There's always a crowd of people. And some of them, believe it or not, will take those white picket fence things and pull off one of the boards as a souvenir. Do not ask me why. They'll go up on the roof to do all that sort of thing. So next time I can talk about that sort of thing, stigmatized homes, whether the stigma is good or bad. So thank you, Ruben, for inviting me. Thank you to First American Home Warranty, Dawn, Mary Kay Advanced Group, Property Inspections, Ed with the NHD disclosure report. Ruben, I will get the notes to you in just about 10 minutes. And thank you for having me. And if you don't get any good comments, don't call me. But if you do, then call me. I used to do it like every 3 months or so, and I never run out of material. So feel free to invite me back anytime.
Thank you, Robert. It was very informative. I enjoyed it. Just to let everybody know, I am recording this as well, so I'll send that out as well. And once I get that literature from Robert, I'll send that to you guys as well. Thank you, Robert. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks to our affiliates too for sponsoring this.
Right, made it possible. Thank you.
All right.